What's up, guys? We're back with a full slate of college basketball action here on Sunday, February 16th. We're going to break down almost every college basketball game out there today. We're going to look at bets on the side and over-under, and make sure to check that pinned comment throughout the day to see if there are any changes as injury news and player availability is confirmed. Yesterday, guys, it went pretty okay. We just swept the board going 4-0. We had Clemson minus 3.5, an easy cash there. They blew out Florida State. Vanderbilt plus 12.5. Looked like in the first half they were going to maybe win this game, but they ended up keeping things plenty close, eventually losing by 5, so an easy cover there. We had Mizzou minus 2.5. They came through for us. That one looked a little bit sketchy from time to time, but ended up working out. And we had Mississippi State plus 4.5. They ended up getting the straight up win there against Ole Miss. So a 4-0 day. I always tell you guys not to parlay, but hey, I hope you parlayed them today on Saturday. So we'll definitely take that. A big day out there. If you want to win all of your bets today, hit that like button. It's good luck. Show support for the channel. All the hard work we put in every single day. Also, guys, if we get to 1,000 likes on this video, we'll be giving away a free hoodie. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content. We'll be giving away a hoodie when we get to 50,000 subscribers as well. We are closing in on that number pretty rapidly. You can also sign up for a new channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members get exclusive early access to all of my videos and get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that badge next to your comments keeps me fired up and motivated to make this channel even bigger and better. All of our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering NBA, college basketball, UFC, and the NHL. Click the link in the description to head over to StumpTheSpread.com and check us out. If you're not sure if a premium pick package is right for you right now, just try us out by signing up for our free email list. It'll get you updates on our results and free picks straight to your inbox. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got number 14 Memphis going on the road to take on Wichita State. The Memphis Tigers come into this game 21-4 on the season, absolutely cruising out there in the American, guys. It's looked very, very good. They're fresh off a blowout win there at USF, so that has to feel pretty great. They got a nice win against Temple, one of their, main competitors there up, well, maybe not main competitors, I guess, but, a solid team out there in conference play. They did well against Tulsa, Rice, Tulane. They beat UAB comfortably. Like, this team looking very, very good. PJ Haggerty, a monster, putting up 21.5 points in nearly 4 assists per game. This team is elite offensively. The defense can get a little bit sketchy. I will give you guys that. The rebounding numbers, maybe not elite necessarily, but we will take what we're getting from Memphis right now. They deserve to be ranked where they are. They had a good defensive showing, at least against South Florida. We saw 4 starters scoring double figures, so just a lot of positives there for Memphis, and they're going to try and keep this train going as they get on the road here to take on the Wichita State Shockers, who only 14-10 on the season. They're 4-7 in conference play. They are playing a lot better as of late. I mean, it hasn't been against the toughest opponents. I mean, winning their last 3 in a row, taking down Charlotte, USF, and USTA. I'm not going to throw you a parade for any of those wins, but a win is a win, and this team desperately, desperately needs them. Xavier Bell leads the way for them, nearly 15 points per game, but shooting 43% from the field. I'm not going to freak out too much. This is a very good rebounding team, which, could make things a little bit tough there for Memphis. We'll see what happens. Their offense, not on the same level. Their defense, not on the same level either. So, it's not looking like it's going to be a walk in the park. The last time these two teams met was at Memphis, and we did see, Wichita State end up losing that game, but only by 8 points. So they kept it pretty respectable. Got to give them credit for playing well. They shot only 3 of 16 from the 3-point range, but Memphis didn't shoot that much better. They shot 6 of 19 from long range, neither team being able to throw in the ocean. Wichita State did have a slight lead there on the boards, and this game was at Memphis, so got to take the Shockers seriously in this spot. They're getting 8.5 points. We've got a total of 150.5 here, so definitely, an interesting spot. Memphis 5-4 against spread on the road, 13-12 to the over. Wichita State 3-7-2 against spread at home, 15-8 to the under. Guys, we see Memphis, they've got FAU on deck. Wichita State, they are, looking at a matchup against FAU on deck as well. So not a big look ahead spot necessarily for either team. I'm going to be leaning slightly towards Wichita State to keep this thing competitive, but not a game that's going to go in the pinned comment. I just don't have that kind of faith. And I do think probably a better play on this one is to go ahead and take under 150.5. I think that's very, very reasonable. I know both teams, can kind of score it, but the last time they played, albeit both teams shot terribly from the field, but are they really going to improve by, 40 points? That seems like a little bit much, but neither one of those plays going in the pinned comment. Next up, guys, we're looking at Florida Atlantic going on the road to take on Temple, still out there in the American. Guys, Temple comes into this game 14-11 on the season, losers of 3 in a row. They just lost against Tulsa, 80-74, so that's not a great loss. We see Jamal Mashburn Jr. putting up 22 points per game, but shooting only 42.9% from the field. This team can score it. Don't get me wrong. Temple puts up some offense, but that defense, not good. Giving up 78.5 points per game. That is pretty rough. Gave up 100 points at USF. Gave up 90 points at Memphis. Gave up 80 points against Tulsa. Like, this is not looking good, guys. This is a trend that is pointed in the wrong direction. So we'll see if they can kind of get back on track here. Feels like a bit of a big ask. I mean, this has not necessarily been an elite team this season, but neither has their opponent. Florida Atlantic also 14-10 this season. They are 7-4 there in conference play, so that's something positive. They come into this game winners of 4 in a row, beating USTA, USF, Tulsa, a nice blowout when they're on the road at Tulsa, and then taking care of business by 12 points against Charlotte their last time out. This team also can light up the scoreboard, 81.3 points per game. That's 34th in the nation. The defense, not really there, but they can rebound the ball a bit. They are not a team that relies on one great individual score, so that's actually something I look at as, usually a positive, not always, but usually a positive. We can swerve any, just cold night by one individual guy sinking our bet, but we really liked what we saw from Florida Atlantic against Charlotte, guys. They shot 48% from 3. They did a good job on the boards. They shot the ball really, really well, just in general. And yeah, a very, very nice outing. We saw 3 starters and 1 guy off the bench score at least, 13 points each. So very, very good stuff across the board for a Florida Atlantic team. So we'll see what they do here on the road against Temple. It's going to be, not the easiest showdown. Yeah, let's double check. Yeah, Florida is at Temple. So looking at the numbers, guys, Temple getting 2.5 here at home. We've got a total of 159.5. FIU 4-5 against spread on the road, 13-10 to the over. Temple 4-6 against the spread at home, 19-5 to the over. An NCAA best mark to the over. They're the best team to the over in all of college basketball. So I wouldn't think you were crazy at all for taking the over in this game. Doesn't seem wild to me one bit. I think we're going to see tons of offense out there. The question is, how much of it is going to come from Florida Atlantic? How much is going to come from Temple? Guys, I'm going to be taking Florida Atlantic on the road in this spot as well. I'm not sure if this is a better spot to lean towards the over or towards Florida Atlantic, but I think both of those plays definitely have some value. Next on the docket, we've got one of the marquee games of the day. We've got number 20 Michigan going on the road to take on Ohio State. And, one of the biggest rivalry games in college football or college basketball season. This is a big one, guys. Michigan comes in this game 19-5 on the season, fresh off a massive 75-73 win against number 7 Purdue. That was a home game for Michigan, so well played there to take care of business on your home court, but a very impressive win nevertheless. I mean, this Michigan team currently first in the Big Ten. They're doing a lot of positive stuff. I mean, they did lose to Purdue earlier this season. They had that inexplicable upset loss there at Minnesota, but other than that, they have been, they've been killing it. They do have 2 games against Michigan State still. They've got a game against Maryland. It's not an easy schedule here as they, trend towards the end of their conference play, but it is this is a good team, guys, no doubt about it. I mean, in that win against Purdue, we liked a lot of what we saw. Defensively, maybe not an amazing night, but they did good job keeping things even on the boards. They shot the ball relatively well from 3, 30% from long range. 3 starters scored in double figures. Not necessarily banner day, but really, guys, what we loved was Michigan getting to the free throw line early and often. They had 26 free throw attempts. Purdue only had 8. So you can definitely cry homer here. That certainly makes sense to me. I do think that Michigan got the benefit of a very, very easy whistle in that game. So something they'll be hoping they get in this one, but at Ohio State seems a bit sketch. This is a good offensive team, 33rd in the nation, very good rebounding team as well, but how will they do against an Ohio State team that, while they're 15-10 on the season, only 7-7 there in Big Ten play? They've done some very good stuff this year. I mean, they're coming off of a nice blowout win there against Washington. They didn't take care of business quite there against Nebraska, but they got a win against a very good Maryland team. They won at Penn State. This is a good team, guys. They also have a win against Purdue on their record, so a lot of positives here. They've got Bruce Thornton, one of the most talented players in the NCAA, almost 18 points per game, 4.5 assists, shooting over 50% from the field. This is an elite offensive team as well. The rebounding numbers are a bit concerning. That's something I'll be keeping an eye on for this game. And the defense isn't necessarily top tier, but they can score it with anyone. And looking at the numbers here, guys, Ohio State 2.5 point favorites at home. We've got a total of 150.5. Michigan only 3-4 against spread on the road. They're 13-11 to the over. Ohio State, a staggering 10-4 against the spread at home this year. They're 13-12 to the under. Guys, I'm not overcomplicating this. Give me Ohio State at home in this massive rivalry spot. Michigan's in a big letdown spot. I don't think they're going to have a letdown here against the Buckeyes necessarily, but I think Ohio State really going to be locked in for this one. I think we'll see their best effort, and getting to play this one at home is a huge, huge deal. Give me the Buckeyes to win this game by, 5 or 6 points at least. Hey guys, jumping in here with a quick ad break. This is a great time to sign up for StumpTheSpread.com. Signing up for a premium membership gets you access to our top confidence plays on all the major sports. We're currently covering NCAA basketball, the NBA, NHL, UFC, and the NFL. We have a team of professional cappers that work extremely hard putting in the research on these games every day so you don't have to. We make things very easy for you with pick notifications directly to your phone and unit sizes assigned to each play so you can see where our confidence level is on every individual matchup. To test out the service before you buy, join our free email list, get the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Just click the link in the description to sign up for a free account. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now guys, back to the games. Rolling right along here guys, we're looking at some Missouri Valley Conference action with the Bradley Braves going on the road to take on the Drake Bulldogs. Bradley 20-6 on the season. They're having a great year so far. They are only 11-4 in conference play, which puts them in second place, a couple games back of Bradley and tied with Iowa State. So we'll see what they do here. They're coming off back-to-back wins, knocking off Evansville and SIU, but we're not going to freak out too much. Neither one of those wins really, against very, very good teams. So we'll see if they've got a bounce back in them here, or not a bounce back, but we'll see if they can build on that. It was, not very competitive game against SIU. We like what we've seen from this team offensively, 66th in the nation in points per game. Their defense, pretty solid as well. The rebounding numbers are a concern. They don't have any massive monster rebounders on the team. Duke Dean actually leads the way for this squad with around 14 points and 4 assists per game, but only shooting 40% from the field. I'm not going to freak out about those kind of numbers. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see what he can do on the road here against Drake. And, obviously a huge game out there in the MVC. The Bulldogs 23-2 on the season. They're playing great. 13-2 in conference play. Can't do much better than that. They're fresh off a pretty competitive win there at Illinois State. So not always the easiest place to play there, but we did see Drake, come away with the win. They beat Indiana State. They beat Murray State. None of those games being won by more than 10 points, though. That's definitely something to be, taken into consideration here. Going up against Bradley, a team that they beat earlier this season, 64-57 at Bradley. So we'll definitely be thinking about that when we look at this game. We love what we're seeing from, Bennett Stieritz. He's putting up 19 points, 6 assists, nearly shooting 50% from the field. Crazy, crazy stuff there. This Drake team, not very good on the boards. They're an elite defensive team. They're a very good offensive team. Obviously, they're going to have the best player on the court, but those rebounding numbers are definitely a concern for me in this matchup. Not that Bradley's amazing on the boards, but Drake is even worse. So we'll see what goes on in their earlier meeting, which was considerably earlier in the season, guys. These are not, exactly the same teams. We saw, Drake shoot the ball really, really poorly from three, still get the win. Bradley did the same thing, though. The rebounding edge did go slightly to Drake, but not enough that I can, draw a whole bunch out of that. Drake did shoot a lot more free throws, but that's kind of a, a function of their style of play, and they're going to be at home for this one. So we'll see what happens, guys. Drake is a 6.5 point favorite here at home. We got a total of 129.5. Bradley 4-4 against spread on the road, 15-10 to the over. Drake 4-7 against spread at home, 13-10 to the under. So yeah, this is a lot of mixed trends here on the over-under side. We only saw 121 total points scored in the first time these two teams met. So yeah, I'm not too interested in the over-under, guys, but I do think this is a spot to take a very, very close look at Bradley getting 6.5 points here on the road. It's not going to be in the pinned comment. Drake just being such a bad team against spread at home. I think this ends up being a very, very close 1, maybe 2 possession game down the stretch, and that makes the points have plenty of value. Not going in the pinned comment, I don't think, but it's definitely one that's worth a mention. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a big rivalry game. We've got South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, going on the road to take on the South Dakota Coyotes. The Jackrabbits come into this game fresh off a nice win against Omaha, winning that one by, 13 points, something like that. A very, very good game. This team has a monster leading scorer in Oscar Clough, 17.2 points per game, 3 assists, shooting nearly 65% from the field. They're putting up 81 points per game. That's 36th in the nation. They're the 25th best team in rebounding in terms of total rebounding. The defensive numbers don't necessarily look amazing, guys. Can't say that those are incredible, but we've liked what we've seen from the Jackrabbits this season. Also, earlier this year, and what is that, 3 weeks ago? They played at home against South Dakota State and got the 90-71 win. So very, very legit stuff there. You love to see it if you're a Jackrabbits fan. This team doing some positive things. They're not, really competing there with the top teams. Although, getting that win against Omaha is a big deal and puts them in a good position. Once tournament time comes around in the Summit, a lot of interesting things could happen. So we'll see what happens in this game. South Dakota comes into this one 16-10 in the season, 7-4 in conference play there in the Summit. They've actually won 4 in a row, including a win over Omaha. The last time they played against San Diego State University, they ended up taking the 90-71 loss, like we were just talking about. it wasn't a pretty one there for South Dakota, guys. The Coyotes, they shot 16% from three. South Dakota State shot almost 40% from three. We saw South Dakota shoot 10 more free throws and still end up losing this game, and they got dominated on the boards, like very, very much dominated on the boards. So looking at the numbers, it makes a lot of sense that South Dakota's getting points. They're getting 6.5 here at home. We've got a total of 170.5. The South Dakota State guys, they're only 2-7 against spread on the road. They're 12-12 to the over/under. South Dakota State, they are 6-3-1 against spread at home, 18-15 to the over. So, guys, I'm not messing around with an over/under of 170.5. That's too big of a number for me to really, know what to do with. I'm definitely looking at, taking South Dakota here, getting 6.5 points in this, rivalry spot. I think they can turn things around. They can play a lot better than they just played, in this matchup earlier this season. We've liked what we've seen from the Coyotes lately. They've been playing great, and even if this isn't, a game that, this is going to be a close game, I think. Even if, I think this is going to be a close one. Comes down to the last couple possessions, definitely give me the points and the home team in this one. Next up, we're headed over to the MAAC. We're looking at the Marist Red Foxes going on the road to take on the Merrimack Warriors. Marist comes into this game fresh off a desperately needed win there at Siena. They won that game by only 1 point, so a nail biter, a big time nail biter. Elijah Lewis scored 14 points in his layup that happened with 24 seconds left, so not exactly a buzzer beater. Helped Marist eventually come away with that win. Now taking on Merrimack, obviously an opponent that's been pretty solid. These are two teams right there atop the MAAC, so we'll see what they can get done in this one. We love what we're seeing from Josh Pasquarelli. He's playing great. This team doesn't put up cartoonish offensive numbers, but they play very good defense. The rebounding, not necessarily amazing either. So we'll see what they can do on the road here against the Merrimack Warriors, who come into this game fresh off a tough 4-point loss there at Manhattan. They're going to have to try and bounce back from that. Obviously, a little bit of a tough task. They've got, two very important games left on the schedule here against Marist, and they're going to need Adam Clark to play well. He's the majority of their offense, putting up 20 points and 6 assists per game in this loss at Manhattan, guys. I mean, he did everything he could, 22 points. I guess only 2 of 4 from the free throw line isn't a great look necessarily, but we saw, Merrimack shoot only 29% from 3. That's not great. They didn't, do an amazing job on the glass. They got destroyed on the glass in this matchup. So that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on here. I mean, they're not an amazing rebounding team, guys. 477th in the nation. Marist, on the other hand, around the 200s. So looking at the numbers here, Merrimack, 3.5-point favorites. We've got a total of 125.5. Marist, 6-5 against spread on the road, 11-10-1 to the under. Merrimack, 3-6 against spread at home, 15-10 to the under. I'm going to be leaning towards Marist here on the road. I think they're, a very respectable road team. I think Merrimack's going to have a lot of problems on the boards once again. I think, if you're, losing to Manhattan by 4, you should lose to Marist by, 6-10. So we'll see what happens here, but I definitely think, Marist on the road is the spot you want to be on. Next up, guys, on one of the biggest games of the night, we've got number 24 Creighton going on the road to take on St. John's, who are currently 9th in the nation. Creighton comes into this game, 18-7 on the season, fresh off a tough loss there against UConn. They didn't necessarily handle that one amazingly well. I mean, I don't know. We've seen all kinds of crazy stuff this year. So yeah, whatever. You'll see what you get, but. Yeah, a loss there for the Blue Jays. They came out on the short end 70-66, and a little bit embarrassing. They didn't have anything to slow down Liam McNeely at all. Dude went off for 38 points against them. We did see 3 players scoring double figures there for Creighton, so I guess that's something, but not a good night from Kalkenbrenner. Dealt with some foul trouble, and yeah, nobody's saving them off the bench. They shot 29% from 3, not the kind of season numbers we've expected to see from a pretty tough Creighton team that, Kalkenbrenner normally puts up 19 points per game, shooting 67% from the field. They're a good rebounding team. Their defense is solid. This is a team that's knocked off Marquette. They've knocked off UConn early this year. Just not necessarily, not their best showing there against UConn. Although, you don't have a rookie or a freshman make that, have that insane outing. Maybe we just aren't even talking about this as much, and Creighton would get a comfortable win. So we'll see what they can do in a bounce back spot here. It's going to be a tough one, though. They're going on the road to take on number 9 St. John's. The Red Storm, 21-4 on the season. They're in a bounce back spot, though, fresh off a very disappointing 2-point loss there at Villanova. That was a brutal one, guys. No doubt about it. I mean, yeah, we'll see. They're going to be playing, obviously this team that plays some games at MSG. Is this one going to be at MSG? Let's take a quick peek. Yes, it is. This game is going to be at Madison Square Garden, the home court there often for St. John's. So I think that probably helps them more than it hurts them, but could be a little bit tough. I mean, we love what we've seen from St. John's this season. Obviously, like RJ Lewis Jr. is a monster. They're a very good offensive team. Their rebounding numbers are insane. 13th in the nation in rebounding. They're a great defensive team as well. So just a lot of positives here for them, and they're going up against a Creighton team they're going to be looking for revenge against. They actually lost at Creighton 57-56 earlier this year in an absolute heartbreaker. So looking at the numbers here, I'm not surprised to see St. John's as sizable favorites. They're 5.5 point favorites. We've got a total of 143.5. Creighton 7-1 against spread on the road. They're 15-10 to the under. St. John's 9-6 against spread at home. They are 14-11 to the under. This is a rough one, guys. Both teams, in bounce back spots here. I'm going to be leaning a bit towards Creighton in the points because I expect this to be an absolute nail biter, but this is a really tough one. You could also talk me into the under in this game for sure. I mean, what do we see? 113 total points scored in the first one. They're going to score 30 more points in this game. That seems a bit sketchy to me. So definitely give me a look at the under in this one, especially, playing at Madison Square Garden. I feel like that maybe makes guys a little bit unsettled, possibly. So, yeah, maybe give me a little bit of a look at the under, but this game might not end up in the pinned comment, despite being one I'm very excited to watch. Rolling right along, we've got the Missouri State Bears going on the road to take on UIC. Another Missouri Valley Conference game for you. Missouri State actually the worst team in the Missouri Valley right now. They are coming off a win, a rare win. They took down Evansville 71-54. So a blowout win at home there for the Bears. But this team, guys, I don't have a whole lot of positive things to say about them. They're a pretty short team. They're not a lot of height out there. They try and play at a fast pace, but that doesn't necessarily seem to help them. They're 312th in the nation in points per game, 361st in rebounding. Like, just not a lot of size out there. Not a crazy amount of athleticism. The defense isn't very good either. They are coming off a win, but man, I'm a little bit surprised to see it anytime they win. The last time they faced UIC, they lost that game 80-63, so they're in a revenge spot for sure, but they have to go on the road here in a revenge spot, which probably doesn't feel great. The UIC Flames, 14-11 on the season. They're right there in the middle of the pack in the MVC. They're fresh off of a fourth straight loss, so they're in desperate need of something positive. They just lost by 10 at Murray State, losing both games there in a kind of winnable looking like 2-game road trip for sure. So got to be disappointed to come back with 0 wins. But when you're a team with 0 star power like they have, no big-time leading scorer, they're 69th in the nation in points per game. That's nice, but the rebounding numbers really, they're decent. They're decent. I'm not going to talk bad about the rebounding numbers, but the defensive numbers are not very good. So they've got a lot to make up for here. We've got to be working on that, the seeding there for Arch Madness. So we'll see if they can get done. They're 6.5 point favorites, so the odds makers like them. We've got a total of 142.5. Missouri State 4-5-1 against spread on the road, 12 total to the over under. UIC 4-5 against spread at home, 15-8 to the over. So that's pretty interesting. We saw 143 total points scored the last time these teams met up, and we've got a total here of 142.5. So give me a slight lean towards the over in this one. I also think you could take UIC at home. I think Missouri State's down for in for a pretty big letdown. I mean, after the last win, they lost by 5 at Northern Iowa, so that's not a terrible loss. I'm not going to talk too bad about that. So slight lean towards UIC minus 6.5 in this one as well. Back to looking at some power conference action, guys. We've got a Big Ten game here on deck. We've got the Nebraska Cornhuskers going on the road to take on Northwestern. Nebraska comes into this game fresh off a tough one against Maryland, end up losing eventually 83-75, but they played hard in that one. They, I would say they had their chances for sure. They were at home, and yeah, this is a team that has to be desperate for some big wins to give themselves, something of a tournament resume. They allowed Maryland to shoot 46% from 3 in the game and shot only 36% from 3 themselves. They got crushed on the boards. Like, this Nebraska team has done some very good stuff this year. They've got a monster in Bryce Williams, but is that going to be enough to get them into the NCAA tournament? They're going to have to win some games here down the stretch, and they don't have many good ones left. I mean, they could beat maybe Michigan and Ohio State. Those could be some big ones, but they need Bryce Williams to really play out of his mind. Almost 20 points per game, so that's he's capable of it, but is he going to be able to do that in this one? I don't know, guys. It's not impossible. This isn't a great rebounding team. They're also not great on defense. What will that matter here against a Northwestern team that is coming off of, a couple tough losses? They just went on the road, with that West Coast trip that now is part of the Big Ten somehow, at Washington and at Oregon. They lost both of those games, but both were very, very competitive. But they have lost 5 out of their last 6 overall. The only win was a nail-biter against USC. So, kind of a tough spot here to go up against a very, very desperate Nebraska team. Nick Martinelli, a monster, putting up 20 points per game, but yeah, you're 204th in the nation offense. You're giving up 70.6 points per game. You're not a very good rebounding team either, so I have a lot of problems here with what I'm seeing from Northwestern, despite the fact that they're at home and getting a point and a half. Guys, we've got a total of 141.5. Nebraska 5-4 against spread on the road, 13-12 to the over. Northwestern 6-7-1 against spread at home, 19-6 to the over. So right off the bat here, guys, you could definitely talk me into over 141.5. I think that seems very, very reasonable in this game. I think we'll see plenty of offense out there. Neither team really wows me at all in the defensive end. So the over in this game honestly has a chance to end up in the pinned comment, but also with a very good chance to end up in the pinned comment is Nebraska -1.5. They have to be in absolute desperation mode. They're a better team than Northwestern. I think they find a way to go on the road and get the win and cover in this one. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Northern Kentucky Norse. They're going on the road to take on the Milwaukee Panthers. Northern Kentucky comes into this game 12-14 on the season. They've won 3 out of their last 4, but it's been a little bit weird. And I mean, taking down Green Bay their last time out, 73-60, not exactly a monster win. Going on the road to take on Milwaukee has to be a little bit intimidating. The last time they faced the Panthers, they lost that game by 20 points, and that was a home game for the Norse. So we'll see what they can do in this one. The Norse haven't had a great time. 300 in the nation in points per game, 292nd in rebounding. Trey Robinson, 15.1 points per game. Sure, that's fine. They are coming off of a pretty solid showing there against Green Bay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, anytime you win a basketball game by 13, you did some things right, but this isn't necessarily an amazing team in my opinion. They did a good job on the boards, but this is all coming against a team that was 2-24 on the season. So not a lot of positives here as they go on the road to take on the Milwaukee Panthers, who are 17-9 on the season. They're 4th out there in the horizon. They are 2 games back of Cleveland State, so we'll see what they can do here down the stretch. They're coming off a crazy overtime win there over Wright State. We were actually on Milwaukee in that game, -5 or something like that, and yeah, the game goes into overtime. We get the miraculous win and cover, so we'll definitely take that. Big shout out here to Folks. He played great, 21 points there. We saw the Panthers shoot almost 40% from 3, but only on 13 attempts. They did a good job at the free throw line. They did a good job keeping things even on the boards, and they shot 50% from the field. So, that's a kind of a tough Wright State team, but definitely a scare survived there by Milwaukee. So they'll be hoping to right the ship here, and they should be very capable of it. I mean, this is one of the top rebounding teams in the nation. They're a very good offensive team. They give up 72 points per game, but that's not too crazy. And the last time these two teams met, we saw a domination there by the Panthers, guys. They won that game by 20 points. Despite being on the road, they shot 50% from three-point range. We saw Northern Kentucky have a really, really bad time out there, straight up not having a good time at all. So looking at the numbers for this game, guys, Northern Kentucky, they're getting 5.5 points on the road here. So Milwaukee -5.5, a total of 142.5. Northern Kentucky 2-9 against spread on the road. They're 15-10 to the under. Milwaukee 5-5 against spread at home. They're coming off of that, overtime game. It was a scare, so I think we see them locked in for this one. Give me Milwaukee at -5.5 against a team they've already dominated once this season. They get to play this game at home, so that's a big plus as well. You do want to look out for the look-ahead spots here. I mean, they do have a game against Youngstown State coming up, but that's not that crazy of a look ahead. And Northern Kentucky, guys, I don't know if this is a team that qualifies for look-aheads. They're about to take on Wright State. So still, guys, definitely think this is a very, very good spot to be considering Milwaukee at -5.5. Rolling right along here, guys, we're looking at the South Florida Bulls going on the road to take on UAB. South Florida comes into this game fresh off a tough loss against Memphis. They lost by 15 points despite being at home. That was fresh off losing by 5 against Wichita State. That game was also a home game. They've dropped 4 out of their last 5, and what is that up to? 5 out of their last 7. So, yeah, things getting pretty bleak. The last time they played UAB, they lost by 9, so a fairly competitive game, I suppose. This team just does not play enough defense to, put themselves in the top half of the American out there. Their offensive numbers are fine, their defensive numbers are terrible, and their rebounding numbers are also terrible. So not a lot of positive things to say here about South Florida as they go on the road to take on UAB, who are 15-9 on the season, clearly not having the season they imagined. They're going to have to go on some transcendent conference tournament run, something they've shown they're capable of, but that's the only way they're going to be making the NCAA tournament this year. They're fresh off a loss there at ECU, so that's a tough one, losing by 7. Fresh off a big win over North Texas, they just can't keep things pointed in the right direction. So we'll see what they do against USF, a team they've already beaten once this year. UAB is a big-time offense all the time and twice on Sunday. So this game is on Sunday, so maybe they'll be eclipsing that 83.4 points per game. They're a very good-looking rebounding team, thanks in a large part to pace of play. The defense, though, leaves a lot to be desired. Against South Florida, the last time these two teams met, we saw UAB jump out to a 20-point lead at halftime and then give basically all of it back. They do end up coming away with the win and shooting 60% from 3 in the game, but I don't think you can really count on shooting 60% from 3 all the time. So looking at the numbers here, guys, UAB 9.5-point favorites at home. We've got a total of 157.5. South Florida 3-5 against spread on the road, 15-9 to the under. UAB 7-6 against spread at home, 12-10 to the over. This is a tough spot, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you could definitely talk me into over here since we saw so much offense the first time these two teams met. So over 157.5, definitely in play. In terms of a side, if you're forcing me here, guys, I think I'm actually going to go with, UAB. They are, coming off of a pretty bleak performance there against a team they definitely feel like they should have beaten. So, yeah, we're going to take UAB to get the win and cover at home, but definitely nowhere close to being a lock. Rolling right along, we've got Utah State, the Aggies, going on the road to take on New Mexico. Utah State, 22-3 this season. They're in second place out there in the Mountain West, only behind New Mexico. So obviously a huge, huge game. One of the biggest games on the slate. I don't care if these teams aren't ranked. This is a massive, massive game with big implications out there in the Mountain West. One of the most intriguing conferences in college basketball. We see the Aggies fresh off a 93-85 close, win there against Colorado State. An interesting game. Maybe they had a little bit of a look-ahead situation going on, but they do come away with the win. They shot 52% from 3, almost 60% from the field. They kept things even on the boards. They did a ton of positive stuff, obviously, just put up 93 points in that game, but one thing they didn't do was play defense. They got to the line 30 times, great. Only made 17. That's not a great look, guys. Not a great look at all for Utah State. I mean, a team that has aspirations this season for sure, and they've got a monster in Ian Martinez, 17 points per game, nothing wrong with that. 28th in the nation in points per game, but the rebounding numbers not ideal. So they may have their work cut out for them here on the road against a team that is in the top spot in the Mountain West right now, the New Mexico Lobos. They're 21-4 on the year. They come into this game winners of their last 7 in a row. They just took down Wyoming by 4 points in a definite look-ahead situation. So we'll see if they've got their heads on straight for this one. They do have Boise State on the docket after Utah State, but that should be an easy win for them. The last time these two teams faced, we saw New Mexico, the Lobos, go into Utah State and win that game by 19 points. An absolute beatdown. This is an elite offensive team, an elite rebounding team, 15th in the nation in total rebounding. Donovan Dent, a monster, 20 points, almost 7 assists per game, and he's shooting almost 50% from the field. This team's going to have the best player on the court in this game. There's no question in my mind. Looking at the numbers for this one, New Mexico 5.5-point favorites. We got a total of 159.5. Utah State 4-4 against spread on the road, 12-11-1 to the under. New Mexico 6-6 against spread at home, 13-11 to the under. Give me New Mexico at home. I don't think they've gotten way worse since blowing this team out earlier, 2 weeks ago or something like that. And now they get to play this game at home. I think they're going to have a very, very good time and, a very, very lit environment there in New Mexico. Next on the dock, we've got Iowa going on the road to take on number 25, Maryland, out there in the Big Ten. The Hawkeyes come into this game fresh off a much-needed win against Rutgers. They lost 3 in a row, albeit against some very tough opponents, but then they come with a win against Rutgers. This is a team with a massive, probably an insurmountable amount of work to do if they want to make the NCAA tournament. They've had their ups and downs this year for sure. Obviously, you can't survive losing your leading scorer for very long. Owen Freeman going down with that injury is a bit rough. They're still 12th in the nation in points per game over the course of the season, so they're finding ways to recreate him in the aggregate there. But yeah, putting up 84 points against Rutgers, it kind of looks like an aberration, but you never know. I mean, maybe they found a way. They're a very poor rebounding team, not a great defensive team, but they can score the rock. And we'll see if that's enough here on the road against the Terrapins, who are 25th in the nation right now. They're 19-6 on the season. They're fresh off a win at Nebraska, so that's a good win, no doubt about that. They beat Rutgers before that, lost a heartbreaker against Ohio State the game before that. So this team that's done some very positive things this year. I mean, Derek Queen, 16 points per game, a monster, no doubt there. We love what we're seeing from Julian Reese, almost shooting 60% from the field, scoring almost 14 points per game. An elite offensive team. The rebounding numbers are concerning, but when you're putting up almost 83 points per game, you can get away with some mistakes. And guys, this defense is crazy good, allowing 66 points per game on average. This is a hard team to score against. Absolutely a very, very tough team to score against. So looking at the numbers here, guys, Maryland 11.5-point favorites at home. We've got a total of 158.5. Iowa 2-4 against spread on the road, 13-11 to the over. Maryland 8-6-1 against spread at home, 16-9 to the over themselves. So you can talk me into over 158.5. You only got to get to 159 total points. I don't think that's crazy, especially given what these two teams have shown they're capable of doing. But guys, I don't know if that's going anywhere in the pinned comment. I do think Maryland minus 11.5 is reasonable because at some point, guys, the wheels are going to fall off here for Iowa. They're going to end up missing their, best player. And I think we could see a bit of a letdown from them after, that big win at Rutgers. They are playing their second straight road game as well. Next up, we're headed back to the Missouri Valley, guys. We've got Northern Iowa going on the road here to take on Murray State. The Northern Iowa Panthers, 17-9 on the season, winners of their last 4 in a row. They just got a 15-point win against Indiana State, so very good stuff there. They've done good things this year. They've got a 3-point win against Murray State earlier this season, so obviously a very close game, but it's kind of too long ago to take that too much into account. We love what we've seen from Anderson this season, 15 points per game, almost 59% from the field, not bad at all, but this team sucks on the boards. Their defensive numbers are good, not great. Offensively, they can do some positive things, but yeah, not necessarily a team that I'm in love with, especially playing on the road, but we'll see what they can do here. They're going up against a very beatable Murray State Racers team that's 13-13 on the season. They're 7-8 in conference play. They have won 2 in a row, but taking down Valparaiso doesn't necessarily get me too excited, but that win against UIC, a 10-point win against UIC, nothing wrong with that. UIC, right there next to Murray State in the standings. So we'll see what they've got. They're not a very good rebounding team. Their defense, okay. Their offense, maybe okay. But yeah, winning by 10 points there against the Flames, not a bad look. They definitely, didn't shoot the ball well in that game. No doubt about that. They crushed on the boards, though. And that's what they might have to do in this game as well. They're only getting 1.5 points at home. We've got a total of 133.5. Northern Iowa, 5-3 against spread on the road, 16-9 to the under. Murray State, though, 3-7 against spread at home, 13-11-1 to the over. Guys, I'm taking Northern Iowa on the road in this one. Playing on the road, especially in the Missouri Valley, can be tough. Don't get me wrong, but I think we see Northern Iowa take care of business in this one against a team that I believe they beat earlier this season. Yeah, they beat Murray State by, 3 points earlier this year in a game that we saw in Northern Iowa. I mean, this is so long ago, so let's not read too much into this, but Northern Iowa shot 4 of 13 from the three-point line, and Murray State won the game thanks to shooting 57% from 3. So I don't think we're seeing Northern Iowa losing this matchup again. I think we like them in this revenge spot, despite the fact they got to go on the road. Rounding into the home stretch here, guys, we're looking at Rutgers going on the road to take on Oregon. The Scarlet Knights only 12-13 on the season. They've lost 3 out of the last 4. The win in there was a nice win over Illinois, so they'll take that for sure. But losing against Iowa, with Iowa's best player not being out there, that's not a great look. Losing by 9 at Maryland, that's not terrible. Losing by 2 against Michigan, obviously that's not terrible. But yeah, they've got to go up against Oregon here, and they've got to go on the long, airplane trip, and that's not great, guys. Ace Bailey is a monster. This team can score the ball a little bit, but the defense is bad, the rebounding is bad, and they're in a tricky travel spot here, going on the road to take on the Oregon Ducks, who are 17-8 on the season, fresh off a desperately needed win there against Northwestern. They had dropped, up to 5 in a row before that win, so yeah, maybe Oregon getting a little bit too much love there in that win against Northwestern. Obviously, we can't hate what we saw too much. They did get the win, but yeah, 42% from 3. I don't know if you can count on that on a nightly basis. The rebounding edge is a good look. They did shoot a lot, almost 3 times as many free throws as Northwestern, though. So are they going to get that kind of treatment at home 2 games in a row? I don't think it's impossible, guys, but that would be a little bit of a bad look in terms of, referee integrity. They've got, not a whole ton of, big-time leading scorers. The offensive numbers aren't great. The rebounding isn't great, so it's kind of hard to be in love with Oregon here. I mean, they are 7.5-point favorites. We've got a total of 153.5. Rutgers only 4-1 against spread on the road, 13-11-1 to the over. Oregon, though, guys, 3-10 against spread at home, 15-10 to the over. Guys, this might not feel amazing, but give me Rutgers, despite the tricky travel spot, getting those 7.5 points. I think they keep this thing to 1-possession game, and I think when you do that, obviously, getting that many points is a very, very valuable thing. Is this going in the pinned comment? Absolutely not. Don't trust either one of these teams enough in this situation, but I do think if you want to be on this one, you want to be on Rutgers. Last but not least here, guys, we've got the Louisville Cardinals going on the road to take on Notre Dame in an ACC showdown. Louisville, 19-6 on the year, having a great time. They won 3 in a row. Their only loss really in recent history. They've only got 2 losses in conference play. They lost against at Georgia Tech. So yeah, a little bit of a tough loss there. They also lost against Duke this season, so that's a little bit to be expected. Duke's pretty good this year, but yeah, this team has done some positive things. They're fresh off a blowout win there against NC State. They went on the road and got the 91-66 win there. Crazy stuff. Love what we're seeing for Chucky Hepburn. Love what we're seeing from this team on offense in general. 56th in the nation in points per game. 58th in total rebounding. They play some defense as well, so it could be a rough night there for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who come into this game 11-13 on the season, fresh off a desperately needed win there over Boston College. Notre Dame 5-8 in conference play, but they haven't really beaten anybody good at all. Yeah, it's looking like at all to me. So we'll see what they can do here against a Louisville team that is pretty good. The Fighting Irish, not a great rebounding team, a very middle of the road offensive team. So not a lot of things to recommend to them, except for the fact they're getting 6.5 points at home. We got a total of 145.5. Louisville, though, guys, 8-1 against spread on the road, 16-9 to the under. Notre Dame 4-7 against spread at home, 12-11-1 to the under. I'm not messing with that under, guys, but definitely give me Louisville to win this game by at least 7 points. They're the far better team in multiple facets of the game. They're going to have the most talented players out there. I think we see Louisville take this thing very seriously and get the win and cover. They've got Florida State on deck. I don't think that's too scary, and we're not worried about this being a look-ahead spot. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.